a friend of mine just opened a brand new company, and he's like, it's a friend of mine. He's my daughter's boyfriend. And it's still in high school. So he's not like my friend, but I'm coaching him somewhat. Right. And he's like, can I please buy you lunch? And he's like the biggest entrepreneur I've ever seen at 15 years old. And I'm like, how are you going to get to lunch? Like, I'm going to Uber. I'm like, you're skipping school. My daughter's like, please, Dad, just meet with him. Please, please, please. And I met him before. He's a great kid. So I'm like, all right, I'll do it. So I said, first of all, I don't want you missing school again to meet me. He's like, all right, this just happened this week. We sit down. He's building a digital marketing business, kind of like what you're looking. He's building this. And I'm like, and he knows I know this. And I'm like, well, look, I can get you in touch with some people to teach you more. I said, but what are you doing with your first client? He's like, well, I'm really nervous. Like I have this client in Gastonia, and it's just so funny here. 15-year-old dude. He's like, I got this client. They sell wheelchair ramps. They're wanting to do some digital marketing. I've taken every class on YouTube. I've done all these things to learn it. And that's another thing you do. You want to learn it so nobody can fuck you over. But you know, he's picking it up and he's like, so I'm going to do it. I don't know what to tell him. I said, well, first of all, you got to act as if you have 1,000 customers. You can't act as if they're the first one, because nobody wants to be the first one. You can make a mistake and say, hey, we're kind of new. But you never say, I don't have any customers. You're my first. Like, you never lie. If they ask, you tell the truth. They don't ask. You want to assume that you're the biggest and baddest out there. I said, when we were very small, and I used a salt thing, I said, we were very small in Michigan or North Carolina. We were this big. We advertised like we were this big. And people are like, fuck, that's a big ass company. It took a while to get to be big, but we acted as if, we showed as if, we marketed and branded as if we were so large. Like you said, we were the decision. If anyone was going to do it, they were like, those are the big guys. And, you know, we weren't big always. We started small, but we've acted like we were huge from day one, because that's confidence, and confidence closes deals. So the brand has to have confidence. Here's the other problem entrepreneurs or business owners or leaders struggle with. It's like, all right, I'm going to hold on to this C or D that I have because I don't have anyone to fill the space. I'm going to go look for an A or B. You have to be careful of that, but I hate that. I hate that we're held what I call hostage to that situation. And that sucks. And it happens to everybody, no matter how big or small a business is. You feel hostage to a situation. So I'm a big believer of having multiple people know the job and building up our bench. Right. So if we've got somebody doing this job, they've got to have their replacement that they're grooming so they can move up. So therefore, when you lose a piece, people just shift and you're never hurting. We mastered that in the solar company pretty well. We didn't get to do that really well in the security company. So it's, you know, it took time to really say, okay, we've got to develop leadership and then an assistant leader and then a leader over here, an assistant leader. So if we lose somebody, we're gone. Or if we lose somebody over here, we can place them over in this other department.
Easily merge them.
You always want to have multiple people know the job, because if you have somebody you have one editor and, you know, they're cutting your stuff and then you're stuck, you're asked out, you're handcuffed to, I can't get rid of this person, even though they suck. You know, I deal with it still to this day. Like, you know, I had, you know, one person finding, you know, commercials for us and advertising for us. And it's like, you know, I have to sit here and tolerate her shit. Right. And it's like, till I just like, I'm not going to anymore. Sometimes you rip the Band-Aid off. Sometimes it sucks. You got to pick up the pieces. That's why I like to learn things on my own as well. So I'm not held hostage. Well, it just depends. I mean, I'm a big believer of bringing people along for the ride. So you want them rowing the same way you are. They want to see the advancement. You know, you want to work on your profitability and bonus them on the profit so they feel like they're an owner or they're a partner, because I think that's important. When you just compensate a leader just based on just sales or just dollars, not overall, then they're just about that sale thing. And look, sometimes that's okay. But I you know, what I've learned is it's when they care about everything, they'll turn the lights off. You know, they'll pick the soda pop that they buy at the store. Wink, wink, Brian. Yeah. And, you know, little things that happen that you figure out and you're like, okay, you know, I need someone that's going to think like me and that's going to care about the overall health and profitability of the entire company, not just sales or clients, you know, because you might have clients, but it might be costing you more. You might lose on some clients, and you don't want them to just go wheel and deal. You want to be profitable. And I think that if you're going to bring someone along on that, you want them to, you know, eat, breathe, shit, sleep, everything you're doing, think like you, be a little mini you, and then you hand them that responsibility. And then you bonus them on your profits, right? I'm talking to a lady now that owns a lash company. And she crushes it. She probably does, I'm not kidding, $400,000 a year or so. And she's like, I don't want to share. I don't want to add people, but I want to grow. What do I do? Right. She should have been on this call because she's signing up. But I said, look, can't be greedy. You're going to have to give some of that up. A small piece of a big pie is a lot more than a big piece of a small pie. And you have to be willing to think like that. Okay, I don't mind giving them some of that because I'm going to expand this and it doesn't matter. We all win. And that's what it takes. And so you train that little mini me. I think it's, if you get to the point where you're overwhelmed, if you get to the point where it's like, I don't have enough time to grow my business, I'm too busy managing my business, then you need to find someone that you can train ASAP to manage it so you can grow it. Because that's the thing. If you're only managing it, you're not growing it, then you're stagnant. True. So if you're at that point, then you need to start making that move. And don't think title is so important, right? So to some people, different things make people tick. Sometimes it's title, sometimes it's money, sometimes whatever it is, right? Yeah. If you've got that right-hand person, you don't need to just pop and make them the CEO. They could be the director of, the VP of. Got it. Right? Yeah. And then you have more room to grow because you got to be careful. Once you hand them the key, you can't get it back. Like if you put them at the top of the line, there's nowhere to fucking go. So you almost want to ease them up so they have more growth, because once they get to the top, I tell people like the only place they can go is fucking down. Yeah. So you want to have stairs for them to continue to climb. Yeah. I've made the mistake. I'm like, all right, you're a president, you're a VP. And then it's like, well, fuck, now we're huge and I really need a real president. No offense to this guy. We've outgrown him. Yeah, like someone what do I do now? Right? More. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. But if I'd have made that person a senior director or a VP, then I have room to bring someone in as we grow, because you will outgrow people. Your business will outgrow folks. It's normal. It happens, and I remember on my team, like we outgrew other people and I was like, well, shit, we're going to have to bring people in and give them other titles and shift around. And what do we do? And I've learned over time that you can't put them at the top of the line because there's nowhere to go. You don't need that title. The title won't do it. And what you can tell them is, look, eventually you're going to be my COO. I'm not big enough to have a COO right now. So you're the director of operations, but eventually you're going to train your replacement as we grow, and you're going to be the VP. And then after the VP, like you give them, like I told you, they want to see where it can go. They want to see the opportunity. Exactly. Oh, I've got that. Then they get excited, and it's not insulting because, they'll understand. You're not, depending, if you only got 15 employees, you don't need a COO. You need someone managing your operations. If you give them that title COO and all of a sudden you get to 1,000 clients and you got 300 or 400 employees, guess what? That person might not should have been the COO, and then you're cutting them off. And that's true. That's unfortunate. And I've been there. I've done that. And that sucks. Yeah. You got to pay attention to that. So you have to ask yourself, the more volume you want, the higher the percentage goes. And that's why you babysit it and manage it on ROAS, right? I said that if you're only doing a small pocket and this is all I'm going to do, percentage going to be 3. If you want to do more, percentage going to be 7. If you want to go even bigger, it could get up to 10. You have to price yourself into that and know that, because you're getting bodies, you're getting fish that you wouldn't have got before, because you're not getting the lay down call-ins. You're gaining other business. And that's why that's going to go up. So you can't measure the two against each other. You can only measure ROAS. And remember, I said it's important. There's 3 metrics you need to always remember in this. Your ROAS is first, your cost per sale is second, and then your volume is third. Let me give you an example. Google ROAS was $35. Hell, that's pretty good. Great. Every dollar I spend, I get $35 from Google. That's great. Facebook was $20. Well, it's not as good as Google. And native was 15. Stay with me. Well, Google only gave me 10 deals for the month. Facebook gave me 35 and native gave me 3. Where do you want to spend most of your dollars? So here's what I would do. So now I have my $1,000 to spend. Well, that's a great return. Let me turn that knob up and see if I can continue that. Guaranteed in marketing, no matter what you're doing, the more you spend to get more deals, the higher the cost is per sale. It's facts. It's not going to stay at 20, 35 ROAS. It's going to trickle down as you gain more volume. So what the answer to this is, I would go 50% in Google, like up. If I have dollars, I have 1,000, I'm going to spend 2,000. I give 500 extra to Google. I give 400 extra to Facebook. And then I give 100 extra to the other one, right? Because you always want to sprinkle the dust. On Google, what you'll see, because it can only handle so much. People are Googling whatever. You're not getting those new bodies. Think of Google as its own pond of, I want this, here I come. There's only so many in there. So once you continue to spend too many dollars and then you compete with everybody else to get that same fish in that pond, the cost goes skyrocketed. That's the sweet spot. So if you're getting 10 and it's 35 ROAS, this is an example, that's a sweet spot. You continue to throw a little bit of money in there until it goes to up and you're like, okay, I found the sweet spot. I'm going to keep it there. Then you go to Facebook and you do the same thing, but you need volume. So you have to ask yourself, you measure volume versus cost per sale. I wanted more volume. So I knew that if my volume would go up, but my cost per sale would go up 1% or 2%, I would find a way to make that work because I wanted to grow and have volume. If you only say, I don't want my cost per sale to go up and I just want to stay this percentage profitable, you can't grow. You got to risk it for the biscuit. So in order to grow, you got to put the money in and understand that. And that's why you got to bring more value. You got to be able to put, all these things and understand that that's part of the creation cost. So when we were small, we were like 22% profitable. When we were at our peak, our largest size, we were at like 8 or 9% profitable. And the private equity guys would be like, holy shit, I'd love to see this a 15% business. What can we do to get that marketing cost down, your customer acquisition cost down, your ROAS up? And we said, open new markets, because we had beat the shit out of the markets we're in. That's how it drives down. I said, or offer other services and go back to with something else. And, they like that answer, but they're also like, and I said, well, look, do you want us to do 600 million in sales and be 8% profitable? Or do you want us to do 150 million in sales and be 15% profitable? You pick. Well, they want the first one. So do we. So the goal is to be as highest percentage, but you have to massage it to what fits you. In a company like yours that wants to expand, you got to understand that you're in a pond where it's cheap, but that pond is never going to stay cheap because there's only so many bodies in that pond. And if you want to expand, you're going after a different kind of fish, a fish that isn't saying, oh my gosh, I need this. Let me Google. A fish that goes, interesting. I think I want that. And eventually that will be your biggest pond, because you're going to get more out of that than the people that need it, because you're creating the market. It will cost more, but you'll get more volume. That's how it works. So you have to be able to budget and build around that of saying, and we'll go over this. You're going to go over these tests. You're going to say, okay, like this is this. What do you think we do? It's always moving. You have to have someone pulling the levers. There were times we were at 8% in solar, and then we were at 16%. Like winter months, fucking 16%, right? You know how that is. Certain markets, Detroit, Michigan was like 25% it cost us. Customer acquisition for marketing was a fucking nightmare for a long period of time, right? When DTE raised the rates and all the shit went down, it gone down to 15%. But I wasn't going to close a market. It was still profitable. It was still making money. So I still had to feed the beast and get enough deals there. But I made up for it as an overall company in my newer markets and my little ponds, because it's all about diversification. You can't grow if you stay in one pond. So you're going to have to play that game and just know that Google's always going to be, it's never going to be your biggest horse, but it's going to be your highest percentage of profit. That's just normal. And your lowest percentage cancel, but it's never going to be your biggest provider. If you do the digital, like I'm talking about, that will bring you more deals than that. So when we first started the testimonials, we give them 3 questions. We're like, we want you to ask them if we did a good job and what they rate us 1 through 10. What were the reasons they went solar, and would they refer us to any friends? And we tell our installers, if they want to say anything else, put it in. And if you want to ask anything else, put it in. We installers like, hey, you think my crew lead's cute? Not that he would do that. We're going to cut that shit out. Right. But we fixed it to those 3 questions. Every now and then someone would be like, well, hold on, let my husband tell you too. Because people get excited to do video. Yeah. They're like, oh my God, yeah, baby, come here. Like, and you want to share that enthusiasm, not only with social media, but with all of the other sales reps, with all of the other installers, where people are like, fuck, I love what I do. These people love what we do. It just makes everything better. Right. And so that was the fixed script there. We did it for probably 4 or 5 years. We quit the last 3 years. We were the first company to do the sign, just went solar. One of our regional managers came up with that idea. He's like, I got this idea. We should just make this fucking sign. We're like, that's fucking genius. So we bought 10,000 signs, put them at all the locations. And when you sold it, because you can't do the testimonial video yet, that's install, you took a picture that we could post on social, and hopefully they would post on social, just went solar, right? The world is a copycat world, and that's okay. We were the first that I remember doing that, but then everybody did it. And it was like, okay, there's shit I've seen other people do that I take and I go, all right, I'm going to pimp it out to do even better. Right. So I'm real big into copying whatever works, take it and then pimp it out and customize it. And that's what other people did. Then they had like, I saw some people like flashing fucking signs and light up signs. I'm like, holy shit. But ours was just a basic power home sign at the time and said, just went solar. You could have something in your business that does that. And it's just like, they feel good about it. I don't know what you would word there, but it's something. You want to be creative and come up with that's meaningful, that's powerful, that's remembering that when someone sees it, like, what is that about? Because it's all about intriguing. People sit on these fucking things all day. They need shit to do. That's their entertainment. So when they see shit like that, that's just eyeballs looking at your business that could turn into something. I still run into my own issues with goal setting. I get frustrated sometimes, like with this new coaching program. It's like, am I supposed to be up to 100 members and 15, which means 100 in the community and 15 one-on-one, or am I good with 20 and 5, right? And so the question is you have to set your goals, and they've got to be realistic goals. And I don't want to outgrow what I'm supposed to be able to manage and handle. And so when you talk about setting goals, I talk about all the time. You want to establish clear, measurable, achievable goals that align with your long-term vision. And part of that, when you're running a business or you're running a sales empire, or you're in real estate or you're building a company, is we have these big long-term goals. We're like, you know what, we're going to accomplish this. I want to do 10 million this year. I want to do 20 million this year. But you got to focus on this week's goal. You got to focus on this month's goal. You got to focus on next month's goal, the next 90 days. And when I remind myself, and I have to do that all the time, okay, slow down. What's my goal this week? Okay, my goal this week is to gain one person one-on-one. I'm giving an example from my coaching business. Gain 5 people in the group. What is my goal for the flooring company we're involved in? Well, make sure we get more sales reps, help push the executives that are running the company and my partners to do what they need to do, make sure that we can get Atlanta opened up. And I think it's important. I don't care how big or small you are in business, whether you're starting, whether you're doing 200,000 a year, whether you're doing 2 million a year, whether you're doing 20 or doing 200, it comes back to realistically setting those goals that are attainable and measurable, that you can put in front of yourself and you want to be able to obtain them. If you set goals that you can't get, you're just going to get discouraged. You're not going to be able to get to the next level. You're not going to be able to better yourself and get that momentum and build that confidence. Everything is about confidence. If you're not confident in yourself, and I doubt myself sometimes too, like I have to go, shit, Jay, I gotta wake up. Like I can't get down on this. I see progress. And sometimes it's hard. It's like watching paint dry. It's like watching your hair grow. Like it feels like it's not going anywhere, but it really is. When you start to look at it, I pulled in the parking lot today and I go, holy shit, in 2 years from right now, 2 years ago, I got a place in Florida and we were on our rodeo to try to take the company public. A year ago right now, we had $1.05 billion offer to do a reverse merger. And then now that company's closed and I'm building from the ground up, right? So much changes in 1 year. So much changes in 6 months. And that's when you go back and you look at it to see your progress, but you always focus forward. Networking and relationship building, I think, is very key as well to talk about. We've got this community here to build a network on. And I'm sure you're part of other groups. I was part of Tiger 21 for a while. Jeremiah, I think you're in a couple, EY groups as well. You need to be networking. We talked about it. In today's world, you have to be posting on social media. You are your own brand. It's not just your company. It's not just you. You are your brand, because if people know you, they need to know what you do. So you need to be posting what you do or about what you do every day. You can't fall into that group of people that go, I just don't really use social media. Then you shouldn't run a damn business. Well, I don't really want to be on social media much. Then you shouldn't be running a business. That's how this works. If you're running a business, you're the face of that business. You're the brand of that business. You're the thing that makes that business run. How are you going to hire employees if they don't even see who or what you're about? People that work for you want you to be relatable to them, and people that buy from your company, they want to know who you are. That's a fact. If you're going to put your name on a website, you need to have some information on your social media. And your company's social media should be posting all the time. And I don't care what you do in business, you should always have testimonials. But that's one thing that's super important, that in the 2 businesses that are, 2 kind of industries I was in before, is getting a testimonial. These testimonials, you put them on the website, you put them on social media. People want credibility, right? They're going to buy from you because they're interested. You've ran an ad with a call to action. You're getting them all the points they want, but they want credibility. Like they want to know who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, Are there other people that have done this? Are they the only ones? Nobody wants to be the first customer ever, right? You always have to act as if, even if it's your first home you're selling or your first haircut you're doing or whatever it is, you can never act like that's the first customer. You got to act like you've done this a million times before, because that confidence will allow them to trust in you. I'm real big into testimonials. Reviews and testimonials are huge. The old company we had, I don't know, Jack, what would you say? It was probably like 2,500 testimonials, 3,000 testimonials. And it's the SEO. The more video you put out there, the more posting you put out there, the more reviews you get out there, the algorithms let you go to the top. And it's so key. That's how you're getting free advertising. It's free. You can literally do posts and it's free. Yeah. And it's got to be consistent, right? Sometimes, after you've been doing it a lot of times, it's not going to go up 4,000 every month. You're new to this. It may go up 12%. It may go up 15%, but that adds up a lot. You add that up in a year, you're over 100% growth, right? Of people seeing that. And it's all about getting the eyeballs on what you're doing.